happened in New York is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the New York City Police Department, for this kid's family, for the nation. But I think it's representative of what happens in a job that's extremely dangerous.
Former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik on this program last night talking about the murder of New York City cop Randolph Holder on Tuesday. But late yesterday, anti-police protesters took to the streets of the city calling for an end to, quote, police terror and murder. You heard me right. A police officer is murdered, and then an anti-police group shows up to protest. What is that all about? Joining us to try and make some sense of this horrible situation, former New York Police Detective Thomas Ruskin. Tom, now with CMP, Protective and Investigative Group, he joins us tonight from Newsmax, New York. Does this make sense in any way? The anti-cop protesters going out and acting in incendiary fashion toward the police still? What is going on?
It doesn't make sense, but, you know, it's typical. But, you know, where is the outrage for a black police officer gunned down, executed, murdered in the streets of our city, in which, you know, you don't see Sharpton and you don't see the people who say Black Lives Matter saying that a black police officer's life matters, more or less any police officer who was patrolling a low or high crime area in our city, low income, high crime area of our city, and gave his life trying to protect someone who had been robbed of their bike at gunpoint.
It is a tragedy, and it is made even more tragic by the bizarre protests that you just mentioned. Let's move from those protests and talk about another topic. A Gallup poll recently released finds a majority of Americans, 56%, said if more of us carried concealed weapons after passing background checks and weapons training courses, the country would be safer. Tom, do you share that opinion?
Absolutely. I think that after you pass a background check, a suitable background check, that anyone in this country under their amendment, their constitutional amendment allowing them to do it, should be able to carry a gun and should be able to protect themselves and other people. Could you imagine if people were out there who potentially could stop crime and assist the police?
What do you say to those people who believe that weapons may prompt shootings like what we saw at the community college in Oregon recently, or the one where just yesterday at Tennessee State University? Your take on that?
My take on that is, listen, we live in a dangerous society, and could a gun in a licensed gun holder potentially cause a crime? Yes, it could. But at the same time, knives are out there and other weapons are used in crimes, and no more is a licensed gun used in a crime than a knife or some other weapon that is readily available.
Specifically, in the case of what we've seen on different campuses, do you support campus carry, allowing weapons to be carried by students and faculty on college campuses?
I think there we're treading on a very slippery slope. I think that there should be armed security. I think that there should be security procedures in place to protect those people, and maybe gun-free zones. But a gun-free zone doesn't mean that you don't have security, you don't have teachers, and you don't have administrators who are properly trained to be able to protect those campuses. We're living in a different world today, you know, in the 21st century than we did years ago.
Tom, final question, only about 20 seconds. More guns, less crime in general? Is that the way it works?
I think more guns, safer, you know, in the streets and in our homes, but, you know, not necessarily less crime. I think that there's police tactics that could be employed that will take guns off the street.
Tom Ruskin, tonight from Newsmax, New York, trying to make sense of that senseless demonstration protesting against the cops when a black officer was killed in the line of duty in New York. Sir, we thank you for your time. You want to weigh in on this whole question of the Second Amendment and what's going on with the cops? Love to hear from you. Send your comments to me, newsmaxtv.com/comments.